Hello and welcome back to the Entertainment Vortex. Today we were at Brendan Theaters watching Don't Let Go. I guess it's more of a aim at mystery, thriller, maybe things that have like sci-fi-ish, horror-ish elements, but don't have that specific like horror genre staple on it. This is definitely not a horror film. It does have some mystery, some intrigue, and it definitely has some supernatural elements to it, but it definitely does not have those typical horror staples. There's no scares, over-the-top, loud, jumpy music, or anything like that. It's all very compact into this kind of mystery unfolding. I definitely felt like the acting performances were a big upside for this. They did a really great job, especially your two leads with Storm Reed and David Oyelowo. They had a really good chemistry that really sells this movie as far as them trying to get back together, as far as having that family connection. I think that's really the biggest seller for this. As far as the rest of the film is concerned, the story itself is inherently interesting just based on the way that it's told and based on the subject matter. You know, there's a huge boom in true crime stories and stuff, and having kind of that supernatural element of kind of like having like time travel and stuff. It really sells itself well in that department. I mean, there are definitely some fallacies, some negatives as far as that goes. You know, it can get a little cliched from time to time, and on top of that, the story can be a little convoluted just for the sake of being convoluted. It kind of reminded me of Donnie Darko in that way, whereas I definitely think this is something that is an enjoyable movie, just like Donnie Darko was, but it tries to like hit you with a bunch of really heavy like science fiction type things, but it doesn't really do a whole lot of explaining as to why that takes place. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing in some situations, I felt like figuring out a little bit about why they're able to make this happen would have maybe given this film a little bit more as far as making the story, I guess, more real and believable, as unreal and unbelievable as it is. A lot of the shots in the way that it was filmed were very beautiful, but in the same vein, there were also a lot of shots that kind of overused like the shaky cam type of motif, and this wasn't really anything where there were big action scenes. Most of the time you see shaky cam in like big chase sequences and big, you know, hand-to-hand combat brawls. While I don't like them there, I really don't like them in places where they shouldn't be at all. That's unfortunate, but as far as like picking cool shots, there are some really good like pan-in shots that they use with, it's either going to be a drone or something on an actual rig using like wire fighting and stuff. I felt like those scenes and the way that they kind of used some artistic flair in some places, I really liked what they were able to accomplish with that. Nothing special about the music. It served its purpose. It was deep and emotional in certain places and brooding in other places, and aggressive and kind of displaying anger in other places. It served its purpose, but it was something that was definitely kind of out of sight, out of mind, or out of earshot, out of mind. Like I said, there were definitely things that could have made this movie better. I definitely think that that first chunk of the movie, in a lot of situations we talk about how movies take too long to set up, and I felt like this movie set up too quickly, which is not super common. It's definitely not a typical issue. Like I said, most of the time they try too hard to build characters and they try too hard to build relationships. And I felt like this, we kind of jumped into the meat and potatoes of the story as far as him trying to like save his niece in the past. That took place very quickly. We only got really one scene of the two of them together to kind of get that interaction and kind of build that benchmark and make those characters something that you were attached to. And we're already jumping into the action of things. And I think that this could have used a little more setup and a little bit more backstory and maybe even some interaction between our main character and her parents. I think that some type of a connection there to show that they're brothers, but that their relationship's a little bit tumultuous because one of them has kind of a criminal past and the other one is a cop. I think that would have been something that could have given a little bit more strength to those characters. But I mean, it also would have probably added another 15 minutes to the runtime. So it's one of those things you have to kind of take with a grain of salt. There are definitely things they could have cut out later in the movie. There was a lot of scenery chewing, but it also was meant to make emotional impact with some of the scenes as well. It's tough to be the person who's after the fact pointing out and saying, oh no, you could have changed this, you should have changed that. There are things that I would have changed had it been my movie, and it wasn't a bad movie. I definitely enjoyed myself. Overall, I'm going to say that this movie is a 7 out of 10. It's not perfect. Like I said, there are definitely some things that I would have loved to have seen a little different with this. I think the biggest selling point for me are those acting performances.
If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We give you multiple videos every single week. And we have t-shirts available if you're interested in those as well. Those are available down in the description below. We hope you'll follow us into the Vortex. We'll see you next time.